Is there a different vision thing when it comes to the middle and lower middle classes of the county, in that the argument's been, hey, we just don't have the resources to have the safety net this county's had in the past for kids relating to children's services and all those attendant programs surrounding it. And indirectly for the housing settlement, that you can't build affordable housing in all these different communities. That shouldn't be the county's job here. Not survival of the fittest, but the premise being that, you know, everybody's got to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Do you have a different perception or not?
I have a very different perception from Rob on the whole gamut of subjects that you just touched upon. And to be clear, I believe that the approach I have is both more humane and more fiscally responsible. I don't think those two goals are in tension with each other. You know, when Rob cuts back on child care, makes it harder for working families to obtain child care, imposes thousands of dollars of out-of-pocket expenses on other families who can least afford it, he's not just having an impact on those lives, hundreds and hundreds of lives here in Westchester County. He's making a lousy business decision. Because why is it that people need child care? So they can hold on to a job, so they can demonstrate responsibility and structure to their own children, so they can be self-sufficient and self-reliant. And so when it becomes harder for working parents to obtain child care, a larger number are going to end up on welfare, which costs all of us more. And as for the youngsters, if they don't get that quality accredited enrichment in the early years, and all the data tells us that's when you can have the biggest impact on the trajectory of an entire life. Those kids are going to show up in kindergarten less prepared to learn, which means that their own prospects are going to be diminished, and all of us are going to pay more for services K through 12. So there's nothing fiscally responsible about attacking investments of this kind, which actually save us money in the long run. And you see that same pattern repeated over and over again. You cut back on neighborhood health centers, which are critical in terms of providing primary and preventative care to many families. You end up with more people in the hospitals, where the medical costs are even higher. You cut back on something like eviction prevention, you end up with a greater degree of homelessness, and we spend more on homeless shelters. So I don't think these are hard choices, as Mr. Astorino likes to describe them. These are dumb choices. And we've got to be smarter about how we allocate our scarce resources, so we're doing right by the people of Westchester, and we're also saving money for taxpayers. And my approach will be not to look at things through the lens of a single public budget in a single year, but look at things more comprehensively and think about all of the things that we're paying for as taxpayers and citizens, and figure out how can we get the best bang for our buck so that all of us have opportunities for upward mobility and all of us are saving money. That's the way we have to go forward.
For the casual voter out there who's followed this on the periphery, your opponent has branded you, maybe not in his exact words, but lazy, greedy, who can't manage his own city. That you're a part-time mayor, that you're giving yourself a huge raise here, and that New Rochelle has got a whole host of problems, including being taxed through the teeth since you've been in office. I'm sure you wouldn't agree with that characterization, but where is it wrong?
It's wrong in almost every regard. So New Rochelle is a complex, diverse, complicated city, large, 80,000 people. It's the second biggest city in Westchester County, with a host of urban and social policy issues. And not just for me, but for prior mayors as well, going back a generation or more. Doing the job effectively requires much more than a full-time commitment. And almost everybody in New Rochelle understands that. And frankly, I think Rob Astorino understands that as well. In terms of our fiscal record, New Rochelle today has the lowest municipal tax rate of all the comparable cities of Westchester County. And in the time that I've been in office, the rate of change in the tax rate has also been the lowest of all the comparable cities of Westchester County. So we've shown that we can respect every penny that comes to us from taxpayers. In fact, Rob and I both served simultaneously in municipal government. He was on the Mount Pleasant Town Council while I was on the New Rochelle City Council for about 8 or 9 years. During that period of time, the tax increases that Rob Astorino supported in Mount Pleasant were higher than the tax increases that were supported in New Rochelle. So there's a lot of hypocrisy in the claims that he's made. And in fact, the Westchester Fair Campaign Practices Committee, independent, nonpartisan body that's ruled for Democrats and Republicans, found 5 of his specific claims to be untrue or so misleading that they may as well be untrue. And I think that illustrates the degree to which his campaign is really based on distortion and fear and dishonesty. And our view is the truth is on our side. If every voter goes to the polls on November 5th with a clear understanding of what each candidate has done, what each candidate wants to do, and what each candidate believes, then we think we're going to do very well.
I would assume for any county executive chief in 2013 and beyond, pension obligations are one of the biggest headaches you guys have to deal with. There's a huge number sitting there, limited pool to pay it from. How would you manage it? How has it been managed to this point? And would there be a break in policy if you got elected?
Well, there's no question that increased pension obligations have been a huge fiscal burden for the county, for municipalities, and for school districts. But we have to remember that the pension policies are set out of Albany. And so local and regional governments really are just handed a bill each year. What we can do is serve as advocates for sensible changes in Albany. And I think accomplishing that requires a good relationship with other levels of government. You have to demonstrate that you can work constructively. About a week ago, I was endorsed by just about our entire state legislative delegation. And the point that our representatives made is that without regard to party, Democrats and Republicans, historically there's always been a constructive partnership. That county leaders have articulated our goals very clearly and worked hand in glove in order to get those things done. And that relationship has not existed in the past 4 years. And I think that diminishes the ability of the county executive to serve as an advocate for policies that really matter to Westchester residents. So the same combativeness and the same spirit of conflict that we've seen with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, with the Environmental Protection Agency, with the Department of Justice, has also been evident with respect to the state government. It's been evident with respect to the county legislature. It's been evident with respect to the county's own employees. And look, I'm not of the view that we're all going to agree on everything all the time. And it certainly is important to stand up for principles and to define differences. But at the end of the day, it's the work product that you deliver to the people who've entrusted you with leadership. That's really the measurement of whether you're serving well or not. And being able to work with others across lines and achieve constructive outcomes is really one of the marks of leadership. And it's been so terribly absent these last 4 years in a way that harms every Westchester resident.
With the level of distrust, I think, from the general public about elected officials, starting most notably in Washington, but even on different levels of government, give them one promise that you could deliver on, that they can touch and feel in the next 4 years if you got elected that would be different than today that they have in this county.
From day one, I'm going to make shared services a priority. I'll have commissioner-level staff who knows it is their job to make sure that we can find a more efficient way to deliver services. I will convene discussions with the Westchester Municipal Officials Association, with BOCES, with school board representatives, so we can identify the services on which the greatest savings is possible. And by the end of the first year, I'd like to have a framework of intermunicipal agreements in place that all of these localities can opt into if they want, so that we can begin to enjoy savings in 2015. That's something that I think is eminently achievable, and it's something that I'd make a focus because it's so critical to so many of the things that we want to accomplish. I'd say also that I'm going to do a much better job of having a comprehensive economic development and job creation strategy that links land use regulations with capital and infrastructure improvements and human skill development. And the flip side of that is environmental protection, because if we want to protect our open spaces and our natural resources, we've got to make sure we're growing in the right way. That means transit-oriented smart growth. And the county as a regional government has a big role to play in making that possible. So that too, from day one, will be a priority that I establish. So, and I could go on, but my point is, I'm not running for office to hold office. I don't think that's the point of running. I'm running for office because I want to accomplish things that I think are important to this region. And from day one in this campaign, I've laid out a detailed series of objectives that I intend to push forward if I'm elected county executive. And I don't think we have a moment to waste. So I encourage people to hold me accountable for the work product that I deliver. And I intend to make sure I apply myself with everything I've got to make Westchester a better place to live and work.
As we said, we're in the home stretch here. Last question. For any voter who's on the fence right now, who hasn't been following this as closely as maybe guys like me have, What's the one misperception that's been put out there that you'd like to put to rest here before they go in the booths on Tuesday and make the decision one way or the other?
That county government doesn't matter. That's the misperception that we have to combat. The county government matters enormously. The choices we make in county government impact hundreds of thousands of lives every single day. And the values that our county leaders bring into their offices have a profound effect on the character of Westchester. So the choice, as I mentioned before, between a common sense Clinton Democrat on the one hand and a Tea Party Republican on the other is as wide a distinction as voters in Westchester have ever been presented with. And we all have to recognize as citizens and as voters that we've got a big choice to make on November 5th. And that we have a big responsibility to make sure that our county government is acting in a way that's consistent with our beliefs and consistent with the goals that we have for our communities. And I hope by that standard that folks in Westchester will entrust me with the opportunity to serve them over the next 4 years.
Good enough.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very
Good to be
much.
with you, Richard.
Best of luck. We're going to be right back in RFL right after this.